Good morning. Today is the day that I get to break in the RM125 to enjoy the fruits of my labor from building this bike over the past couple months and make sure that this dirt bike is dialed and ready to go for whoever wins it. There are now just a couple weeks left to enter for your chance to win this dirt bike and a trip out to Montana to come ride it with me. So if you like what you see, don't sleep on it. Let's go riding. Before heading out, I first corrected the fuel line orientation as pointed out by Nathan at Smart Carb, and then added some tape to the areas susceptible to boot rub, just to try to keep it as pristine as possible for the winter. No matter the coating, no matter the quality, boots will get through it over time. Now let's go see how this thing rips. Yet to lay down one of the giveaway bikes. We're hoping that doesn't change today, but thrilled to get this thing on dirt. Got the fresh Tech 10s from MX Locker, all the rest of the gear from Rocky Mountain ATVMC, and this fresh MSR helmet. First time on dirt, let's go. Here it goes. Oh, I forgot to tighten the clutch first. Test photo toolbox. A little loose on me. There we go. All right, take two. Couple first laps here on the RM. Don't be too hard on me. I haven't ridden a 125 in forever. But we'll see how she feels. We're riding some deep sand. So I gotta remind myself how much you gotta shift the 125 to keep it on the bike. She feels good though. It's on the pipe, it's so crisp and clean. I gotta remember with a freaking 125, especially in the sand, I gotta freaking keep it on the pipe and clutch it and shift the crap out of it. I keep kind of falling off the pipe, which I think is just the way I'm riding a 125 because it's been so long, but I think once I get it figured out, this thing's ripping. Super stoked. See if I can figure out how to keep this thing on the pipe. It is a 125. I literally have to remember to abuse the clutch. Woo! Daniel did a nice job on the suspension. I've touched nothing so far. It's feeling good. Woo! Got that dooski in front of me. Rips an RM250. Ah, that's neutral. Woo! Rips an RM250 and cameraman. Oh! And he's down!
Alright, we're getting warmed up now.
Yes, we are. I think we're gonna need a little more clutch tension. We're not getting quite the clutch feel I need. We'll go adjust it. So I ran out of adjustment on my bar. This clutch cable's too loose. And this clutch nut is a 9mm for some reason. So I gotta do the old hack job with a set of pliers, but it'll get the job done. So we'll see how that does. While at the truck, I took the opportunity to peek at the spark plug as the bike sounds and feels great aside from my clutch issue, but I wanted to make sure there were not any lean indications. I'm still not an expert at reading spark plugs, but the electrode and threads were dark and not oily, and the insulator was a nice golden brown, which as I understand it is precisely what I want.
All right, clutch feels way better. Oh yeah, that clutch adjustment was way off. That's more like it. I've actually got a feel for clutching it back into the power band now when it falls off. I still don't have the perch tight enough. I just landed off that jump and my clutch fell a little. Alright, rock and roll. Oh, first ever giveaway bike laydown. Not a full laydown, maybe a scratch. Sorry guys. I'm just not used to having to shift this much. Holy crap. I went 2 clicks richer. Wow, and the off idle like barely cracking the throttle. Actually feels better. Haha! Got the wheelie line! I don't know if the clutch cable is stretching or if it can't keep up with how hard I gotta work it on this track. Oh, weird. Because I'm getting tons of play, but I'm just working the clutch.
Now, I probably should have realized sooner that something was indeed wrong. Another hindsight 2020 moment. One cable adjustment is not particularly uncommon, especially when you're getting your clutch hot and working it, but continually tightening the cable means something is up. And there came a point when my clutch did not want to disengage at all. And as I pulled the 2SM ignition cover off and saw what the clutch arm was doing, I quickly realized what had happened and hoped there was no serious damage. I addressed this problem in 2 different build episodes. First, when I built the engine, the OEM lock washer replacement for the clutch is smaller than the one that was in it. Here is the close-up of what's supposed to be that lock washer behind the nut, and you can visibly see there is nowhere it overhangs or provides enough space to actually bend. This is something I will need to address, and later on as I tried to track down the correct clutch lock washer. So I bought an RM125 lock washer hoping that would work, but it's for a bigger shaft, and I had 2 other clutch lock washers that also don't fit. This is peculiar to me, as the manual does indeed state to bend the lock washer, but the OEM washer simply doesn't allow it. After torquing the clutch nut, you are supposed to bend a lock tab so that it cannot come loose. The OEM RM125 lock washer has no bendable area and too small a diameter, and I never actually resolved this before the first ride. I wondered, if properly torqued to spec, if this nut would ever actually come loose. Well, it didn't take long. I was incredibly nervous that a loose clutch nut would wreak havoc inside the engine, but I saw nothing of concern when I pulled the pressure plate aside from confirming that nut did indeed come loose, and I should consider myself very lucky. This all had me wondering, how early in the day did this happen? How much performance was I losing, and how did I get so lucky that the basket didn't slip and chew this engine to bits? It was only a few laps into the day that I adjusted the clutch for the first time, although the first one may have genuinely been a needed adjustment, but who knows? Brett over here just held the brake pedal, put this thing in gear, and got this thing to about 100 Uggy Duggies, so it should get us through the day, and then that very clearly tells me I gotta find the proper solution. So we'll get this back together and then hopefully keep ripping it today. Torque to spec. How am I gonna do this? How's that one? I just saw the So this is that 2SM clutch cover. The stock clutch cover just has some locating pins in here that help the O-ring seat. The ones he updated have that, so we're struggling to get this back on trackside right now because I didn't bring gasket maker. I didn't think this was coming apart today. Gotta be prepared.
That's all God needs is some extra grease and duct tape.
You're gonna have to grease the whole thing?
I'm gonna grease a lot of it. This is not the recommended way to install a clutch cover, but desperate times call for desperate measures.
Desperate times is any to still ride his dirt bike.
Exactly. Honestly, the fact that this is what happened is kind of good because that shows this bike is actually ripping.
Yeah.
Like the clutch issue is nothing more than me being a mediocre mechanic.
Did you just not torque it down enough?
The OEM part does not work.
Oh.
There's nowhere on this tab for it to actually bend.
Interesting.
So I was curious how essential they are, and I learned today they're essential. Thank you. I've never had one come loose, so I didn't know if it was like, if it would damage the basket, but everything in there looked good. It was literally just floating around there, and thankfully that Wiseco basket is super durable, so the little wobble on the clutch hub didn't really impact it. So that is the clutch way too tight right now because of what I just resolved. I ran out of Yama lube, so we're mixing two-stroke oils. Don't tell anyone.
Well, you just told us.
Clutch works now. You might not be able to keep up, buddy.
Another plug pull there, 1.2 on the meter. Nice crispy golden brown, and she's running mint. I honestly think we're dialed.
I actually can't believe how much of the day I rode with a loose clutch nut. Bike rips, man. About as much as I can expect from a 125. I've been talking about the engine all day, so we'll talk about everything else. The handling's great. Suzuki Suzuki's are a little wide right here, especially with these restyle shrouds. Would be kind of one thing I noticed, but you get used to it quick. The suspension is awesome. The brakes are awesome. That Honda front brake was definitely a good choice, and that rear Honda Master is clean look and feels good. So we're just getting out of the sand for a little bit and ripping a little corner track here. And really, the sand was the most abusive place I could have tested this thing today. Ryder Swenson here on the 85 is faster than me. I don't know what they're feeding kids these days. Oh, it's honestly so nice not in the sand to see how it's putting the power to the ground. Good girl. Thank you so much for your help today. I appreciate it. You're the man.
No problem.
Dude,
I'm so out of
crushing
shape.
it. Thanks for your help today too.
Absolutely.
With the bike not only surviving the rest of the day, but absolutely ripping, I washed it as soon as I got home to keep it as fresh as can be, and drained the oil to see if there was anything I should be concerned about. The oil looked as one would hope, with no metal shavings or signs of concern. The drain bolt did have some metallic debris on it, but nothing sizable or that concerned me. Essentially, nothing unusual for break-in oil. The next day, I did a deep dive on the clutch lock washer. I generally ignore the supersedes note on a parts diagram as the newer part is usually updated for a reason, but not in this case. I searched for the old part number and I believe I found some on eBay, which I ordered, but it can be hard to tell from photos if it is the correct one or not as the diameter is close. With this, I decided I could safely reuse the old one. Now this is generally not recommended, as once they are bent, they are weakened and can flake off metal. But since these are completely round and don't have defined tabs like many other lock washers, I just took the Dremel, ground off any old bent material that could be a potential issue, and then smoothed it all out with a prime wheel so there are no rough edges or metal that can flake. I inspected the clutch basket, the clutch hub, and inside the engine more thoroughly than I did trackside, and once again found nothing of concern and was so grateful for that. Now I wouldn't be installing this if I had any concerns. Is it a little janky? Yeah, kind of. But it has good surface area, the nut is fully supported, and I was able to bend 2 areas of the washer not previously bent. And I can now say from experience, it is a much better option than the clutch nut coming loose. I apologize for how many times I've now made you watch this clutch come apart, but I believe that'll be the last time. So that was the first ride on this 2001 Suzuki RM125. And outside of that clutch issue, I must say this bike absolutely rips, and I just have to thank all of the companies who helped make this build possible once again. Truly, this is not only one of the best sounding, but one of the best running 125s I've ever ridden. I must say, Smart Carb knocked it out of the park with this all-new SC3. Boyson, Wiseco, Pro X, and not to forget, Fathead Racing helped to make this engine an absolute unit. I really was quite impressed with the suspension. I didn't feel the need to fiddle with any clickers all day. Out at that sand track, I probably could have gone higher on compression, but the bottoming resistance was good and the suspension felt nice and compliant, not to mention it's absolutely gorgeous. Daniel did an awesome job on that as well. So really, this leaves one thing left to be done on this build, and that is to add those missing tabs to the subframe so that this seat is a little more sturdy. Now obviously it didn't really impact me that much riding. The seat is pretty solid, but adding them is the right thing to do to really finish this build off properly. Now today was actually my first time TIG welding. I spent a few hours learning how to use my new Yes welder and placed all of these pretty ugly welds that if you look too close at, you're gonna get real nervous about me welding this. But for day one, I'm actually pretty happy with my progress, and I am truly so excited to finally have a welder in this garage. You guys should have seen just how giddy I was when I finally fired up that torch for the first time. Woo. Boy, is that a terrible weld, but I did it. So the plan is still for that welding repair to go in the final build video. Now one more thing I want to mention, this bike only has 2.2 hours on the meter, but it has had fuel in the tank for quite some time now, and I have noticed no downsides to this Cerakoted fuel tank. No chipping, no flaking, no changes in color whatsoever. It is still too early to answer for sure if this is a viable option for plastic components and fuel tanks, but so far it's looking good. I also want to give an enormous thank you to Eli, Matt, and Monty for helping film this video. While editing those drone shots, the cinematic shots, the follow cam, I could not believe the caliber of footage. And I say that as a thank you to those guys, because without them, this would be nothing but a GoPro video. Like I said at the beginning, you have a couple weeks left to enter for your chance to win this bike and a trip to come out to Montana and ride it with me. If you've already entered, thank you. If you're not going to enter, thank you for just being here. I appreciate every one of you who watch these videos. I truly cannot believe the support lately. It has been blowing my mind, and it doesn't go unappreciated. Thank you. With this project almost wrapped up, I will be able to resume progress on the CR500 and the Panthera snowbike build. So absolutely no shortage of projects around here. I'll see you guys soon.